Hey everyone, it's Strange Michael. I hope you're doing well today. I have a review here for a film that I've never seen until about 6 months ago. I watched the first half of it, and then my rental ran out. I got too busy, I couldn't finish the movie, and I eventually wanted a copy, and I got it for my birthday, right here, of the 1982 Arnold Schwarzenegger starring movie, Conan the Barbarian. I love this cover too. It was really hard to find a copy on eBay that had this cover. Amazon didn't have it. No one had it with this particular original artwork, which is amazing. Look at this shit, dude. It's awesome. Anyway, Conan the Barbarian is based on Robert E. Howard, the very famous creator of things like Kroll and Solomon Kane. Solomon Kane being my personal favorite. Never read a Conan story from Robert E. Howard, but Robert E. Howard was a wonderful creator. But let me say up front, since I haven't read any of those pulp stories, I don't know how faithful this or its sequel, Conan the Destroyer, which I also haven't seen, or the Jason Momoa movie, are as an adaptation. I don't know how good they are, how faithful, anything like that. So I'm hoping that regardless, maybe I can continue to enjoy this film, because personally, I thought this movie kicked so much ass. What a solid, fun film. It was as much of a surprise as the Solomon Kane film with James Purfoy, whatever the fuck that guy's name was, from back in like 2010 or 9 or whatever. Conan the Barbarian stars Schwarzenegger, like I said. Basically, he was a small child, his family were all killed, his whole village and tribe were killed right in front of him, and then he's taken into captivity by James Earl Jones, who's kind of the head of all of these evil bad guys. And there's a little bit of a fantasy element to this movie, by the way, too, with some supernatural stuff, but it mostly focuses on human beings fighting out in this desert landscape of fantasy realm bullshit. Who cares about it? But they take Mr. Schwarzenegger as a small boy into slavery, and basically he does this thing where he spins a big wheel around all day long and becomes massive, becomes this roided out Schwarzenegger, and eventually he gets mad and goes out to take his revenge, and he turns into an absolute badass named Conan the Barbarian. This film is brutal. There's so many great action set pieces, there's so many great fight scenes and gore effects, practical effects with squibs and all of that, even though there's an axe hitting you and not a bullet. It is awesome. I love watching that stuff. There's a really cool fight with some monsters in here sometimes. That stuff was so interesting to watch, with the practical effects, even down to like animatronics and stuff they use, the makeup effects, all of that really impressed me to build this little small world that they had this movie taking place in. And again, it's kind of like a dark fantasy, but kind of like a fantasy with like no wizards or anything like that, but kind of some of those powers, those abilities. It's very different, and James Earl Jones gives a wonderful performance too. Darth fucking Vader is basically the villain of this film, but with different looks and views and different abilities and that kind of thing. He ain't using the Force. He's using some other stuff. It's very interesting as a one-man against an army type of thing, and eventually Conan gets some comrades that help him out at some point too, and I even like their performances. Everybody that helped out with Conan were really good. Everybody in general were really solid for the most part in this movie. I don't really remember seeing a weak performance in this film, and I really enjoyed it. It's a whole 2-hour-long thing. They just zoomed by. This is something I've never seen, like I said, and the movie surprised me tremendously. For a 1982 film, for a film that I've heard about all of my life and never had the willingness to check out, even though I love Schwarzenegger, he's a great actor. I always wanted to see more Schwarzenegger films, then I see this and it completely kicked my legs out from under me. It's probably because of the Robert E. Howard influence, I don't know, but again, I don't know how faithful this is to those old pulps, but I'm hoping it's really faithful because I want to play the Conan game now for 360. I want to do a lot of things involving Conan because it sounds really, really cool to me, now that I've kind of this light pulp fantasy feeling, and I love Conan so far. This movie, if it's anything with his backstory like the old Robert E. Howard stuff, it's badass. The character is great. The performance from Schwarzenegger might be one of his absolute best, up there with his Terminator performance. The dude killed it as Conan. Conan is not just a cold-blooded killer. He's a guy that doesn't really have feelings, but he feels things very differently. He's a very violent man. He's a very angry man sometimes, and I really, really love that about this performance with Schwarzenegger. He mastered this, and dude, he's humongous in this shit. He is huge. He was enormous with his muscular stature. The dude killed it in the film. I love every moment of it, basically. It has a couple of moments in there that it kind of slows down a little bit, which kills the pacing sometimes, but 2 hours, for the most part, zoomed by. The mystical elements are cool, the supernatural stuff was cool, I like all that, and the ending was awesome. Just completely badass, dude. This film has a lot of badassery in it in general, which made it more fun to watch, even. Let's see, what else is on my list? The cinematography of it's pretty cool. Cool effects, I like all of that, I talked about it too. The music really rounded out this movie to make it what it needed to be, to make it what it, at its heart, wanted to be in the script. I really enjoyed that too. Think of a lot of like 1980s, or even 70s for that matter, styles of fantasy music. It's kind of like that, and I appreciate it. It fits very well for what this movie's trying to do. It's very Middle Eastern in some ways, but kind of not. Very otherworldly, but kind of not at the same time. I really dug that. I miss having symphonies and stuff for soundtracks for films, not just some one guy with a keyboard in a basement type of setup, like Hollywood typically does now. It's very strange, you know? This was really cool. I really enjoyed Conan the Barbarian. I'm hoping that Conan the Destroyer and the Barbarian remake are going to be good whenever I get around to watching them, but I doubt it. I don't have much time during December. Maybe I'll try to, maybe I won't be able to. I don't know yet. But hopefully they're as good as this one was. This was a big surprise for me. I could see this being a film that I rewatch over and over again because of how badass it was. If I had to rate Conan the Barbarian from 1982 on a 5-star basis, I would probably give it probably 4 out of 5 stars, man. This was a really cool flick that had a lot of memorable, iconic moments in it for its time. And again, to be out in 1982 and be as good as it was, it's kind of surprising, man. I feel like this was inspired and created because of how big Star Wars was. I really feel that way. Anyway, what do you think about this first original Conan the Barbarian fan? Are you a big Robert E. Howard fan? What do you think about the comparison between the two? Are they any close to faithful in this movie's adaptation of those stories? I'd love to hear all of that down below. Let me know everything you have to say about it. What's your favorite Conan movie, too? Let me know that, too. Anyway, Merry Christmas. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. God bless you all, and goodbye.